Hello everyone and welcome back to my new YouTube channel. This is Dr. Laura Mock, DDS, and I am here to talk to you tonight about getting divorced. And when I was planning my speech, I was like, I'm going to just start my video with a little caveat. Maybe, this video isn't for everybody, but I changed my mind because I think everybody should know about the things that I learned when I got divorced. And so I'm calling this video What I Wish I Had Known Before I Got Married About Divorce. Okie dokie. So we're just going to dive right in here. I'm anticipating this is going to be a shorter movie tonight. We'll see. Oh, by the way, so it's February 16th, 17th, 2019. Worst winter ever. I just spent the last hour shoveling my driveway, and it's supposed to snow again Tuesday night. And I don't know about you guys, but it definitely has affected my practice. Lots more late cancellations, entire days completely blown apart by the weather. It's a really good reminder for everyone to remember that your thoughts matter. And when you start thinking scarcity thoughts as you see your schedule falling apart, remember that you can replace those scarcity thoughts with something more abundant. And if you want some suggestions of thoughts that you can think instead of the scarce ones, let me know. I'd love to chat about it. All right. What I wish I would have known about divorce before I got married. All right, here we go. So I have been divorced now for over 10 years. I've been divorced from my first ex-husband longer than we were ever married together. And when I got married to him, I was fairly young and I was more naive. I really didn't know anything about men or marriage or anything. And I had a lot to learn, and I definitely learned a lot once I got divorced. So here's my principle number one. Co-parenting is no joke, meaning it's a lot of work. It's really hard. So just kind of imagine in your head, everybody thinks to themselves, divorce is super hard. It's a very traumatic time in your lives. And that is accurate. It is a really traumatic thing to go through. And so you have to like someone, you have to dislike someone, or you have to have a bad enough experience with that person to feel willing to go through the crappy parts of getting divorced. So we're talking about someone that you have definitely decided you don't want to stay with for some reason or another. And then you take that same person and you go through this separation experience, which usually does not happen 100% harmoniously. And then if you have children with that person, now you get to turn back around and be a co-parent with that person. And you already decided you didn't like them. And now you got to stay together as a family, because I have to say, he might be your ex-husband, but he's the father of your children. And in that way, he's still a part of the family. And every birthday and every graduation and every marriage and every grandbaby that gets born, he's gonna be there. So it's this dichotomy where you're leaving, you're gonna be free, but he's still there. And co-parenting is really hard. I wouldn't wish it on anybody unless it was absolutely the necessary thing to do. Principle number two: buying your freedom can be necessary, and it's never fair. What I mean when I say that is, for any two people who are getting divorced, there's definitely going to be undesirable financial consequences. And especially if you're a professional woman and you've been carefully managing your finances, it's very likely that you're going to walk away from the divorce feeling like you had to pay in order to be free. I definitely did that. I took all of the debt that we had accumulated together. It wasn't a lot of debt, but I took it all. And I was like, well, it's just money. I want to be free from this relationship, so it's what I'm going to do. And it for sure was not fair. Well, there's other unfair things that happen financially when you get divorced. For example, pretend you're in a relationship with someone, and for 5 years, that other person that you're married to has been racking up secret credit card debt. Maybe there's $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 of credit card debt. And keep in mind, this is like 20% interest, so it's growing every month. When you go to get divorced, that is what's called marital debt, which means you share it, even if you didn't even know anything about it. Now 25,000 of that debt is yours, and you're going to pay it. There's no way around it. Here's another one that's kind of unfair: owning a dental practice. Being a dentist is unique. If we were physicians, we would probably be employed by a larger organization. But if you're a dentist, then a lot of times you bought your job when either you graduated or sometime soon after. And that means you have an asset that you use to manage your career. And if you get divorced, guess what? However much that entity is worth, you get to give half of it to your ex. And that's just a part of buying the freedom. Luckily, when I got divorced, I had only owned my practice for less than a year, and I actually owed more on it than it was worth. But that does happen frequently to my friends who are female dentists, where they have to pay out. It happens to the men folk too. Here's another one that you want to be aware of. If you have a practice and then you have babies and the husband decides to stay at home with the kids, it's probably going to be great for the kids. And I'm not saying do it or don't do it. I'm just saying, if then let's pretend that same guy gets bored and he starts having an affair and you guys decide to get divorced, well, he was taking care of the kids full time, and that means you're probably going to be paying not only child support, but also alimony, because he had given up his career in order to raise those kids. And so you just get to continue to support him. So it's kind of one of those things where you really want to be aware that that is a risk if it's a decision that you're going to make. Here's another one that I had no idea about. When I got divorced, my ex-husband and I decided that we would share physical care of our children 50-50. And I did not realize that if I made more than my ex-husband, substantially more, that meant even though I have the kids 50-50, I still have to pay child support to my ex-husband. And I used to have to pay him. I don't anymore because of long circumstances. But I can tell you it feels pretty unjust when you're paying the father of your children, even though you have the kids half the time. And in my circumstance, I was also paying for everything, their activities and their clothes and everything. Plus, I was giving money to my ex-husband every month. And that's not pre-tax money. Wait. Yeah, that's post-tax money. So first you pay the taxes on it, then you pay him. That's tough. And I know several female dentists who struggle through that concept. Here's another one, really important. For sure, when you're going through the divorce and maybe afterwards, there can be a lot of really hurtful things said about you, especially from your ex-spouse. And a lot of times you really don't know what's being said, or worse, you know it's being said, but you don't get the chance to correct it. Maybe they're talking to their own family about his version of the story, and you're getting divorced. So you don't get to go to his family and say, look, actually, I think it happened this way. That just isn't how it works. There's a lot of times when you just gotta grin and be glad that you have your freedom and understand that people are going to say things about you that aren't true, or that aren't true from your perspective. Now, I will say, and this is even more important, it is important to know that those hurtful things are going to be said, but even more important is to understand that over time, the truth will become very evident from your actions. Because it's really easy as divorced parents to get petty and mean. And if you don't get petty for the sake of your children, it will be really obvious that you're keeping the interests of your kids as number one. But that takes time, though. And it's just from your actions. You don't get to say to your ex-mother-in-law, hey, I am still a good person here. You just got to keep on being a good mom. Okay, the next one. There is a silver lining to getting divorced as far as the parenting is concerned, and it's a well-known secret among divorced parents, which is that you have built in time off where you don't have to hire a babysitter, and you already know with the schedule when you're going to be free. This doesn't happen in every single situation. For example, when my ex was deployed, then I got to keep those kids 100% of the time for that year that he was gone. But when he came home, that was when I really started to take better care of myself because he wanted the kids half the time, and that's what our agreement was. So I got to work out. I hired a trainer. For the first time, I got a lot healthier than I used to be. I dated, and I made friends. It was great. So, and I still got to see my kids, and it was good for them to spend time with their dad, so I didn't have to feel guilty for when I wasn't with them. All right, I have 2 more, then I'll be done. Number 6, super important. Criticizing your ex in front of your kids is just like criticizing them, because when you're a kid, your parents are a part of you. So if you say, well, your dad really let us down because blah, 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 you will instill a sense of shame in the kids, and you won't even know that you're doing it, because every time you say that, they're like, my dad is me, I'm doing something wrong, and it doesn't work out well in your favor. So I highly recommend, even when you're definitely right, keeping your thoughts to yourself or having some other person to bounce those thoughts off of. All right, last one, super important. Having a successful ex-spouse is success for your kids. So remember when I first got divorced, and I would say, well, my best revenge is going to be that I'm just going to live my best life. And I really, in my heart, I was like, yeah, I'm going to live a better life than you are, kind of thing. But over time, what I have learned is that when my ex-spouse succeeds, that's really good for my children. So I have moved away from that mentality, and I wish that somebody had pulled me aside and said, hey, cheering for him is a good idea, and supporting him is a good idea. And that success trickles down to your kids. And that's really important too. I have to say, my ex and I have been in good times and bad times, and right now I would say we're in a pretty good time. Plus the kids are getting older, so there's less pressure that we put on each other. And once I really figured out that his success was my success and the kids' success, it got a lot easier. If any of you guys would like to chat more about this, maybe you're contemplating divorce, maybe you just got divorced, maybe you're going through it right now, or you have a friend, feel free to reach out to me. I think I mentioned this in my last video, my coaching right now is still no charge. So it's the perfect time to chat with me. I chat with several of you each week, and it's always uplifting. Hopefully I'm giving some valuable advice. I think I am, and I would love it if you reached out to me so we could chat. Everybody have a great week. Good night.